So one of the things I've learned in my life is that when you want to do something, you can do it. You just have to go all in. And what I mean is all in. And that's what we did this last year. We did not go out to dinner. We did not buy clothes. We didn't do anything but really work, because that was our entire goal and focus, was getting this place. And so I really do believe anybody, if you want it and you make those sacrifices, you can absolutely have it.
Hey, Gen Mex, you just met Toni, and I met Toni's husband, Tom, on the pickleball court. And when I talked to him and heard his story about his connection between Alaska and La Paz and how he got here and what he does, I was like, oh, this is the best story. But then as I pulled up to their house and saw the neighborhood and heard how much they bought the house for just last year in 2023, and also met Toni and really heard their story, there was a lot more to this story than I ever imagined. So let's go ahead and meet Tom and Toni.
I'm Toni, and we moved to La Paz this last fall.
I'm Tom. We moved to La Paz from Alaska, and we're here till May. We're planning on spending about September to May every year.
So we're going to start out with where I thought I would start out this video, and that is finding out what these guys do for work, because they're not retired yet, but they're living in Mexico part-time. So, and then we're going to go over to talk about housing, building a house, affordability, things like that. But let's start out with what these guys do professionally.
So I'm a professional chef of about 35 years.
I was born in Wichita, Kansas. And then I ended up going out to school in Vermont, and I was home for summer break and got a job as a waitress, met the dishwasher. And
in Vermont.
Yeah, in Vermont.
Where we spent 30 years.
Yeah, and then we ended up staying there. We had 2 daughters. We raised them. They both ended up going to school in Alaska. We kind of jokingly tried to get as far away from us as possible, and then we followed them. In 2018, so we lived there for 5 years and loved Alaska in the summer, and it was really amazing.
I currently work at a lodge in Alaska that's off-grid, remote fly-in.
And I am a director for professional programs for online college of a university in Vermont, and I also am a professor.
Okay, so now you have their professions, but we're going to talk about what that means, and we're going to start with Tom on the pickleball court.
So I met Brighton on the pickleball courts. It's kind of what I do with a lot of my time, free time. Since I'm not working, I work from basically May to end of September, and then we're back here in La Paz. And my time is pretty free, and I'm able to do kind of what I want to do. And pickleball is one of the things I love to do, and checking out local restaurants.
So my day, because I work for a university in the East Coast, actually starts at 6 a.m. And the time zone gets kind of weird because we don't do daylight savings anymore. So sometimes it's 3 hours, sometimes it's 2 hours, and in Alaska it's 4 hours. So I just start work at 6, and then I'm usually done around 2, which is really great because there's still plenty of time to go to the beach or anything like that. I think one of the benefits for me, with me working and him not, is that one of the things when we agreed to this is that he's cooking dinner. So whether we're eating out or here, he's making me a nice dinner. So
I like eating out.
If this were Kat and I, this would be a recipe for disaster. Just me playing pickleball and enjoying life, and she's working and working and working. So you're going to hear from Tom and Toni about how they worked through this. But if you are experiencing a similar dilemma in your life, the sponsor of today's video may be able to help. That sponsor is BetterHelp. Their online therapists are available almost anywhere in the world by phone, text, video chat. One of the things I've talked to with my BetterHelp therapist about is balancing work and pleasure here in Mexico. That may not be the most serious mental health challenge that I've faced, but it's great to have a helpful, unbiased person to talk to when you're experiencing a challenge. If you want to give it a try, you'll get 10% off your first month if you use my link, betterhelp.com/almost retired. The platform is really easy to use, from getting matched with a therapist to scheduling and having sessions, even for switching therapists if the first one isn't a great match. If you think you might benefit from therapy, try BetterHelp. Over 4 million people have already used BetterHelp to start living a healthier, happier life. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/almost retired. Clicking that link helps support this channel, and your first month of BetterHelp is 10% off. I didn't ask Tom and Toni if they had a therapist involved in their agreements, but let's see what they worked out.
So when we're up in Alaska and I'm working, we don't get a day off, and it's 10 to 12 hour days. So it's a pretty grueling schedule. I've cut back work a little bit. I used to have a job in the winter where I was at another lodge, but the back-to-back seasons were just physically too much at my age of 55. So when we talked about moving down here, it was obvious that I couldn't work down here. So summers were it. And financially, it's pretty lucrative what I do, where I can make enough money to make it viable that we can be here for the period that we are. And it is a challenge. I pick up a lot of extra work around the house. By default, it's kind of what I do down here. So it's not all pickleball and margaritas and beach time. and I do pretty extensive menu work as well when I'm down here. So your thoughts?
It's always a little hard, and it's actually not as hard as when Alaska, when I was getting up and spending 4 hours in the dark while he got to sleep in. But, it's definitely some days where he's like, yeah, let's go out. And it's like, I have to work in the morning. I can't really do that. But I think overall, we're making it work. And then in the summers, and this was just last year, was the first time we were able to do it. And I hate to plug Starlink, but it's been a game changer for me, absolute game changer, because the remote lodge, it worked out there. And so for the first time, instead of getting stuck at home, I got to go with him. And I'm a little bit lighter load in the summer. And so when he's working 7 days a week and stuff, I get to go paddleboard on the lake and do some other stuff. So I think that's kind of how we balance it. It's just kind of different times of year. One of us might be busier than the other one.
Yeah, I think you being out at the lodge, seeing what revolves around my work day, has kind of given her a sense of that it's pretty rough. But it's also, I love what I do. And I cook for a small group of people. We do really high-end food. If I had to be in a restaurant, I would be in a different career at this point. I wouldn't be cooking anymore.
Okay, so that has you a little bit up to speed with their lives here and a little bit up in Alaska. But let's talk now, before we go and talk about the house, get the tour of the house and talk about the financials of the house. Let's talk about how they ended up in La Paz from Alaska, because La Paz is kind of a lesser known location in Mexico. It's becoming more popular, but I'd like to hear the story. I love hearing people's stories of how they ended up here.
I was born and raised in New York City.
Alaska, what we call dark season, where we only have about 4 hours of daylight, and I'm up working Eastern hours, so I'm up at 6 o'clock and don't see the sun until 10:30. It just really got to me.
And daylight is dusk.
Yeah, we don't really see the sun till February, and then all of a sudden it just like switches daylight savings, and then I'm going to bed at 8 o'clock in the light. So
yeah, summer is phenomenal. We get about 20 hours of daylight, so you're up. You can go out fishing at midnight and you still have sun. It's incredible.
So, and one of our daughters still lives there. The other one moved to New Hampshire just because, we're not. So this actually, and actually the one that moved to New Hampshire got married last August. And kind of after that honeymoon thing, and then we ended up spending a lot less on a truck repair than we thought we would. It was really spur of the moment. We were like, hey, I need some sun. Where should we go? When we started looking someplace, and I kind of thought about Cabo, and then did a little research, and it was just a little more party town, not enough beaches for our tastes. And so kind of went down the map a little and just took a chance on La Paz, and we had a Airbnb for a week here. And about 4 days in, after just, the food and the sun and the people and all that, and then we kind of walked past one of those realtor places and caught the prices of some of these houses, and just thinking that we could possibly own a beach house with a pool, or, a house that has a view of the ocean, and our price range was like never even entered my mind, like as something at all that we could do. So the wheels started turning, and I think we put the down payment on this place a month and a half later.
A leap of faith.
Yeah.
Yes, a leap of faith, because I can see this is brand new construction. They're still working down the street building these things. So I'm sure at the time this was just a piece of dirt. So let's talk about the construction process, buying a house in Mexico. And this is a little different, and we're going to talk about that. These houses here, this neighborhood, the houses are very similar, and they're really built, it's kind of designed more for the Mexican middle to higher income market, maybe. So it's a little bit different. And I think, is this a fraccionamento? I don't know if that's the term for it, but it kind of looks like one in terms of like a subdivision. But let's hear a little bit about the starting point and just kind of moving forward with building a new house in Mexico.
When we got back to Alaska, and again, our wheels were turning about, first thing kicking ourselves for not staying here longer, we started really thinking about, and I'm one of these people listed out, what do we want? So I started writing down everything we wanted. We wanted, we need 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. We want our own pool because we have a husky mix who loves to swim, and we're afraid he might get too hot. We want a rooftop deck. And we don't want any more than that, really, because we just don't, we want to be able to leave whenever, and not have to worry about it. So we actually did not want a lot of property. We also didn't really want to live in a community where there was going to be HOA fees. And so we were just kind of writing this down and looking at places and, seeing some stuff. And then you came across on Facebook this new development. So we kind of reached out, and this guy Bill kind of came, and he was actually very persistent, but
The house checked all the boxes.
Every box, and it was within that price range we were looking at. And so we started kind of crunching the numbers, and we thought I wanted to be on the safe side because we didn't want to touch our savings. We're kind of getting at that age, and so we were thinking like, how can we raise this money? And so we originally supposed to close this coming May, but we really rolled up our sleeves, did a lot of extra work, and came up with the money. We were making payments as we were earning it, and made a lot of sacrifices. So this past year was not by any means easy for us. It was it was hard work. We had a thermometer that I had made where we were making payments and like kept crossing it up and putting little photos of the house as it was being built, and that. To kind of encourage us, and we still have to pinch ourselves every morning. I have to pinch myself that we are actually in this house, and that it was just a little over a year from when we came to visit that we owned the house.
Yeah, the location, it was sight unseen. We did this from Alaska, and we had. It really was a leap of faith for us because we were just supposed to send money to this account. We're dealing with this person who was the representative of the development, kind of very disorganized, but the builder, we got to meet him over online through a meeting, and we felt really good about it. And
then we met him in May too when we came down.
Yeah, we met him in May, but the whole process from us doing this from Alaska and to May when we came back, where the house was, there were cement blocks up. The process was really easy.
It was. Sometimes I was nervous about how easy it was. Until we kind of got in here and it was like, this is actually real and all that. And it was really nice too for us. is the kind of the structure is the same for most of us. You can make some small adjustments, and some people did. But we got to choose our counter, the cabinets, the counters, the tile, the front tile, some things like that. And then since then, we put in some little privacy shades and to kind of personalize it. So, but it does has a nice flow where everyone's is similar, but we each own our house, and now we can do whatever we want. It's not an association. We could paint them pink, if we wanted to.
Yeah, and it was important for us we wanted a house that was manageable because we do spend summers in Alaska. We wanted to just be able to leave and really keep it simple at this point. And that was very appealing to us about this design.
Okay, so we're going to do a quick walkthrough of the house and show you guys what they got for their money. And then we're going to come around and talk more about the price. Like I said, it was around 100, but not quite exactly. Things change over time. When you're buying from a Mexican builder, you're paying pesos. So we'll talk about that after the tour.
Yeah, we got the full package. So that came with the gate, which is important to us because we're going to be leaving our car here when we're not here. So it's enough for 2 cars. And then we have a little lime tree that we planted. So we have a little, yard for the dogs up front. And then in the back is pretty much just the pool and a little seating area. The living room kind of kitchen, it's very open. We're eventually going to get a table. We haven't kind of gotten there yet. So we really wanted something that was super easy to clean. Tommy does not like me in the kitchen when he cooks. So, he likes to be there, and I'm well over here out of his way. So that was a really important feature. We absolutely had to have 2 bedrooms because I work from home. I need to have my own space. And then we also, for when guests come. So it's a dual office. And then I have a couch in there that pulls out into a sleeping arrangement. And then the 2 bathrooms, which is also extremely important. My grandmother said very important in a good marriage is separate bathrooms. Yeah. And I agree.
That was one of our must-haves from experience.
Yeah, our master is huge. It's like one of the biggest masters we've ever had, really, that's practical.
Yeah.
And the closet space is enormous. And both bathrooms, I think, are really nice sized. And that was actually kind of higher than expectation. And we did not have ocean view on our list because we just thought that would be completely unattainable. But from a rooftop, we can, in fact,
kind of see it.
Oh, you can see the ocean.
Yeah, it's beautiful at night. You can see the lights downtown La Paz.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then behind us right now, there's nothing. We don't know. That was kind of one of the gamble. We have no idea if that will stay nothing or eventually probably.
Hopefully it stays.
Houses will go in. But
walk us through the kitchen.
Okay. The kitchen is, I didn't get really any say because it was like a pre-designed deal. But it's very functional. It's decent size. We have the Mexican-sized refrigerator, which is plenty for us. So we're adapting to what things are like in Mexico, and it's been all good. But I really do like the kitchen. I like the cabinets, the cabinet space. The sink, we have a double sink, which is pretty helpful and useful. The stove it's a Mexican stove.
No oven?
Yeah.
We do have an oven. We do have an oven, but it's yeah, we did. We cooked our first week here. We cooked Thanksgiving here, and it came out pretty good. But the oven is kind of a challenge because baking in it. I like to bake a lot, and the oven they're really not designed for baking. So something I'm learning, but we just roll with it.
I think eventually, maybe next fall, we'll do another kitchen, and make it pizza oven.
Yeah, up top on the roof.
Tom really loves making pizza.
This summer, I'm going to design something for the rooftop where we're going to have like a pizza oven, a stove top. So we'll have burners up there, and there is a sink already plumbed. So it's kind of
I think that
was space to be able to do something.
A big change for us, and we're still trying to not do it. And I don't know, maybe this is coming from Alaska and Vermont was this way because grocery store wasn't necessarily near, so we went shopping once a week. And so we would, it's like plan the meals, go shopping, put things in the freezer, that kind of thing. And we started doing that when we first got here. And now we're realizing how silly that is. That, you can just go to the market if you feel like having chicken and get a fresh chicken. You don't go, and I think that's like with the small fridge and the less cabinet space, there isn't that big pantry because they eat
You're
fresh
doing more
food.
shopping.
Yeah.
We've been shopping like for every 2 days, and we use the local markets here, which are they're fantastic. You don't have to go into La Paz if you don't want to, and their prices are really good. I've found a place that's got really nice local organic chicken and beef.
The chickens come with
So yeah, Centenario's got a lot to offer.
the dogs love them.
Okay, I definitely want the organic chicken meat place, except for the feet part. I'm not so sure I can deal with the feet part. So, but let's dig into money, which is always fun, and find out, what it was like when it was advertised on Facebook and how that went around as it got closer and closer.
So I saw this advertised on Facebook. And again, it checked all the boxes that we were looking for. Really piqued my interest. So I reached out, got in touch with the representative of the builder, and got some more information. We were still a little skeptical, just because it's $100,000. It's a lot of money that we're going to be wiring to Mexico. We worked out. Toni and I discussed it, and we said, "Okay, let's do this. Let's make the offer." We set up a schedule of payments with them. So the way it worked was we would send X amount of dollars, and that money would go right into the bill. And 2 weeks later, we would get photos of the house with what our money got us. So it was just a series of payments and continued updates where I would reach out, or they would just send me some photos or video. The builder, it was just absolutely like the easiest process I could have imagined, and it worked out really well.
Yeah, Andres was just really great to work with. And then, so when we were negotiating from the price, we did the full package. So we got the gate, the air conditioning, the ceiling fans, and all of that. The only upgrade we did was the back patio, and that was only about $600. So, I think that was all negotiated. I think it was a little more than 100 on the contract. I think it was like 105.
Yeah.
When it kind of all said and done. And the exchange rate was pretty decent in January when we started, and then just went down like pretty much every month. Like I have my little spreadsheet, and you could just see just like our money was not going as far. So I did kind of figure out at the end, we probably ended up paying about 118 because of the exchange rate. So it wasn't them. They didn't have. There was no surprises on the builders end. It was it was the exchange rate, which just is what it is. So we got hit with that pretty hard. But luckily, we were so motivated. I mean, some days we'd have a hard day at work, and I was literally thinking, like, today is going to buy 100 cinder blocks for our house. We were really like that doing that sometimes. I actually picked up some shifts at the lodge where Tommy worked at. And so we were really just did everything we could. Because this was such a gamble, the way we looked at it, is if we lost everything, we didn't want to lose our savings. That would really hurt. So it would still hurt, but it wasn't, we're kind of even where we were. So that's why we decided to do it this way.
Yeah. And the representative for the builder, probably about halfway through the process, was not in the picture anymore, and Chanel from Baja Realty took over, and made the transition smoothly. Which
Yeah,
was
she
nice.
gave us a tip that could have saved us money. She got us
Yeah.
onto Wise, and I could have, not that it made a huge difference, but we did for the last two payments. I was able to kind of wait and see when interest rates or when the exchange rates were good, and I could move the money over to Wise and hold it there until when our payment was due. So at the end, kind of figured that out. So that would be definitely a recommendation is to use Wise.
Yeah, and what was important too is getting a mortgage in Mexico is the interest rate. There are conditions that have to be met, and the interest rates are really high, and then the property's got to be at a certain dollar amount, which we were not in that price range, looking at houses in that price range at all. So being a cash deal, I mean, we had to have our budget and meet our budget. And it ended up going a little higher than what we anticipated, but in the end, it was the great process.
Yeah, and that's why we gave ourselves some wiggle room in the budget in case we weren't able to raise that money. We didn't want to fall behind.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
But Andres was just super great. I just really can't speak highly enough of him.
And even after we moved in, if there's any issue that comes up, he has his workers here within like 5 to 10 minutes and fixes whatever, which is nice. And there is like a warranty for a year.
So it's really interesting. In Mexico, you often will see houses with the rebar sticking out the roof or in a state of halfway constructed. And as I understand it, in Mexico, like a lot of El Centenario is probably built this way. So when people can afford it, they build, the foundation. And then when they can afford the walls, they build the walls. And then when can they afford the windows, they build the windows. And it just takes however long it takes. And I hadn't thought about that, but with a development like this, the builder is building many houses at one time. So it seems like whoever is paying is the house that gets worked on at that time. So must have been a lot of flexibility to say like, okay, we're ready and we can, give you 100% of the money or, do the payments really quickly or spread it out as these guys worked and got that money. So one thing that this house probably didn't come with is furniture. So let's get an idea of what it took to get this house furnished.
When we moved in, the house was empty. We had an issue with CFE or electricity getting hooked up. The house was finished pretty much on time when the builder said it would be. But CFE, nothing new that we were told that it's in Mexico. It takes a while. We're on Mexican time. So we were still kind of holed up in our Airbnb. So we got to get some things before we actually moved in. We had a bunch of furniture, our bed, table, cabinet, outdoor furniture. We had that built locally, which was really nice and very, very economical and pretty good quality too.
Yeah, and my desk, which was right now I'm using a table that will be an outdoor table because I actually want to get a specialized desk built next fall. But yeah, I mean, pretty much when we moved in, I had to have a desk and chair.
Yeah, so I mean, couches we bought locally here in La Paz. We just found it way more economical to find something locally, and we found what we wanted.
We found a good store.
Yeah, and pretty much some stools came from Amazon, and most everything is locally made, except for the couches and chairs.
Yeah. The furniture that we had made in the handmade quality and the cabinet, especially in the kitchen, was actually really reasonable. Couldn't believe how inexpensive it was, and it's really solid. However, like the couch and the chair, the television, those were not cheap at all. Even though we actually did find a store that had pretty good deal. Actually, this was the couch was about 500. So this couch was actually a pretty good deal. But a lot of the places we looked, the furniture was very expensive, even more expensive than it was in Alaska, which kind of surprised me because Alaska is very expensive. It's kind of like an island. So there's no bargains on furniture, that's for sure. But yeah, or the pre-made furniture.
And the appliances were kind of on the expensive side, but I don't think anything too crazy.
The washer and dryers are a lot more, which is why we don't have one yet. We'll probably get one of those next fall. Those are definitely pricier.
Yeah, it's surprising. We think that everything is going to be more affordable in Mexico. And a lot of things, furniture, and especially because we are in La Paz. Tony said, Alaska feels like an island. La Paz feels like an island too. Everything has to come over by ship or all the way down, which is 2 days drive. So most stuff comes over from the mainland by ship. So furniture expensive, probably more expensive than other parts of Mexico, especially Guadalajara. Guadalajara seems to be the place where everything is made and probably where everything is less expensive. But also TVs, electronics, that kind of stuff can get pretty pricey. I'm not quite sure why that is. The appliances can be expensive and dishwashers, very uncommon. If you go to Home Depot, you will not find a dishwasher, but they are out there. You can get them. Do you guys have a dishwasher?
No.
No dishwasher. Very common here. Probably no space for one either because it's not designed. And someone actually told me they're called lavajadores, I think. And it's someone locally said she calls them lava gringas, which is like essentially a washer for gringos. So, which kind of makes sense. We're the only ones who have them. So this has been a great interview. We've kind of gone all over the place, but thank you for sticking with us here. And I've got a couple more videos up here from other expats who've made it happen, other foreigners who've moved to Mexico. Check those out next, and hasta luego. Oh yeah, there we go.